Welcome to the Hilleberg Solo and Solo BL, fully freestanding, all-season, one-person tents that are impressively strong and remarkably light. The two have identical dimensions, but the Red Label Solo has 9mm poles and Carolon 1200 outer tent fabric, while the Black Label Solo BL has 10mm poles and a Carolon 1800 outer tent. Both tents are remarkably capable of handling any adventure. Choose the Red Label Solo if you favor strength in a lighter package. Choose the Black Label Solo BL if you simply want the strongest, most robust Hilleberg Solo tent. We're using the Solo BL in this video, but since setup for the Solo is exactly the same, we refer to the tent throughout simply as the Solo. This video covers everything you need to know about pitching the Solo. We recommend that you watch this video carefully and also look over the instruction booklet included with your Solo, and that you practice pitching and using your tent before your first backcountry trip. Introduction to the Solo. Like all Hilleberg tents, the Solo has linked but separable inner and outer tents, providing either simultaneous pitching or separate use for the greatest versatility. The Solo has one entrance and a single vestibule integrated into its fully freestanding construction. As with all Hilleberg all-season tents, the Solo's outer tent goes all the way to the ground for maximum weather protection, while all mesh areas on the inner tent are backed with adjustable fabric panels for variable ventilation. Included with the Solo is the tent bag, the tent with attached guy lines and line runners, a pole bag, 3 poles, one spare pole section with a repair sleeve, a peg bag with 12 pegs, and an instruction booklet. Other accessories available for purchase include a pole holder kit for pitching the inner tent separately, a footprint, a mesh inner tent, tarps and trekking poles, as well as extra pegs, guy line runners, and reflective cord. Standard pitching. Find a level spot that is free of stones and other sharp objects and lay out the tent. If it's windy, it's a good idea to peg out one guy line so the tent doesn't blow away. We recommend that you pitch the foot end into the wind. The foot end is the end on your right if you're facing the entrance. Lay out the tent's 3 poles, noting that one pole is shorter than the others and is marked with red tape near each of its ends. The shorter pole goes over the 2 longer crossing poles, and the red tape markings correspond to the red webbing strips on 2 of the short pole sleeves, one on each side of the tent. For maximum longevity and durability of your tent poles, it is important that you are careful with them. Make sure that all segments are seated properly and that they don't drift apart while pitching the tent. A small gap can lead to pole breakage. Start with one of the 2 longer poles and insert one end into one of the short pole sleeves marked with either blue or white webbing. Make sure the pole is fully seated in the sleeve. Insert the other end of the pole into the matching color-coded sleeve on the opposite end of the tent. Repeat the process with the remaining longer pole and the other crossing pole sleeves. Lastly, insert the pole marked with red tape into one of the pole sleeves with red webbing, place it over the top of the crossing poles, and put the other end into the sleeve marked with red webbing on the other side of the tent. Once all the poles are in their sleeves, attach the clips to the poles. Make sure not to step on the tent walls while putting the clips onto the poles, as that can damage the fabric. If you have difficulty reaching the upper clips, simply slide your feet under the tent. To make it easier to attach the clips at the top of the tent, push down on the pole so you can easily get the clip on. Note that the Solo pole system is designed so you can double pull using 2 poles in each sleeve and clip line. This increases the stability and strength of the tent, but would only ever be needed in very extreme weather conditions. When double pulling, alternate the clips between the 2 poles. After attaching all the clips, attach the vent cover. Note that 2 of the vent cover attachment points have toggles rather than hooks. Leave these attached all the time unless you want to remove the vent cover completely. Attach the vent cover hooks to the corresponding rings along the pole sleeves. Securely tighten the vent cover by pulling the straps at the attachment points. For maximum ventilation in fine weather, you can completely remove the vent cover. The Solo is now fully set up and ready for use. Since the Solo is fully freestanding, it does not rely on pegs or guy lines for pitching. We do, however, recommend that you always peg the corners of the tent and the guy lines since weather conditions can change unexpectedly. Secure the 6 corners with pegs. Angle the pegs at about a 45-degree angle to the ground and press them in. Use a rock to press or pound them in if necessary, until only the top of the peg is barely visible. Avoid stepping on the pegs to press them into the ground, as this can bend them. When pegging out the guy lines, make sure they are at their longest setting and that they are placed as shown here to provide the greatest stability. Note that the upper guy line attachment points are longer and are designed to be wrapped around the tent pole for optimal strength and stability. Insert a peg into both guy line loops and press the peg into the ground. Adjust the lines so they both have the same degree of tautness. When tensioning the guy lines, don't tighten the line runners so much that they deform the poles, as this can weaken the structure of the tent and can cause pole breakage. While an over-tightened Solo might not look that bad, the excess tension can still weaken the tent. Using the Solo. The red toggle at the base of the Solo's vestibule entrance zipper can be inserted into the zipper pull to lock the zipper in windy conditions. To use the entrance, unzip the door and roll and secure the fabric with the elastic loop and toggle system. Avoid letting the door panels drag on the ground and/or stepping on them, as dirt and sand will shorten the lifespan of the zipper. To get into the inner tent, unzip the entrance's center zipper and the lower zipper on your left, and roll and secure the panel using the loop and toggle. Both sides of the inner tent's entrance can be rolled to the side and secured. The main side of the inner tent entrance is no-seam mesh backed by a zipper adjustable fabric panel. For maximum airflow, unzip the fabric panel and roll it down and secure it using the elastic loops and hooks. A large adjustable vent sits at the top of the outer tent's entrance. The vent's highly air-permeable yet water-repellent and snow-proof fabric allows air to flow freely, even when the vent panel is zipped closed. Unzipping the top of the inner tent door allows easy access to the vent's zippers from inside the tent. For maximum ventilation, the vent can be opened completely and fastened with the elastic loop and toggle. The Solo's inner tent has 2 pockets, and webbing loops in the ceiling allow you to string a clothesline. Rough weather pitching. Before you use your Solo in challenging weather conditions, it's a good idea to have practiced the setup beforehand. If you're pitching your Solo in deep snow, we typically recommend that you dig the tent down into the snow. Of course, there are different snow conditions and digging down the tent may not be an option. In this video, the snow was quite compacted, and for demonstration purposes, we pitched it without any digging. It's a good idea to stay low when pitching your tent in stormy weather. And when unpacking it, make sure to secure the tent and all loose bags so that they don't blow away. Position the tent's foot end into the wind and securely peg both corner peg points. The foot end is the end on your right if you're facing the entrance. Secure the remaining corners with pegs. Starting at the foot end of the tent, insert one of the crossing poles into one of the short pole sleeves marked with either blue or white webbing and make sure that it is fully seated. Insert the other pole end into the matching color-coded sleeve on the other end, the head end of the tent. Repeat this process with the other crossing pole, inserting it first into the short pole sleeve at the foot end of the tent, then putting the other end into the correspondingly marked sleeve on the other end. Finally, use the same procedure with the shorter pole, which is marked with red tape, inserting it into the sleeves marked with red webbing. On the foot end of the tent, wrap one of the upper guy line attachments around one of the poles and peg out both the guy lines, leaving them fairly slack. Note that this process of wrapping the upper attachment around the pole is especially important for rough weather pitching. Repeat this process with the guy lines on the other pole on the foot end. Circle around the tent while you attach the clips so that the tent walls are raised to the same height on all sides. Be careful to not step on the tent fabric. If you have difficulty reaching the upper clips, slide your feet under the tent. Once you have attached all the clips, tighten the guy lines you secured at the foot end of the tent. Attach the vent cover and tighten the adjusters. Secure the remaining guy lines, remembering to always wrap the upper guy line attachment around the tent pole. Guy lines work best when they are placed as shown here. Once you've pegged out all the guy lines, it's a good idea to double check that the pegs are completely secure and that the guy lines are all correctly adjusted. There are 2 extra guy line attachment points on the Solos vent cover that you can use in particularly high winds. Simply tie on a length of guy line cord and peg it down. The red toggle at the base of the Solos vestibule entrance zipper locks the zipper and is there precisely for high wind conditions. When entering your solo in rainy weather, unzipping the door just enough so you can crawl in will help keep rain off the inner tent. You can disconnect 1 or 2 of the toggles connecting the inner tent to the outer tent, then push the now loose inner tent back. This gives you more dry space to deal with wet gear before going into the inner tent. You can also do this before entering the tent. By disconnecting the inner tent from the outer tent, you can create as much vestibule space as you need. Using the solo outer tent separately. Using the outer tent on its own provides covered dry space as well as a great place for people to gather. Simply detach the inner tent from the outer tent and pitch the outer tent as you would the complete tent. You can also pitch the complete tent and then detach the inner tent by starting at one of the inside corners and disconnecting the inner tent's toggles from the outer tent's rings. If you're planning to reattach the inner tent later, you can leave one of the toggles in place and tuck it into the corner to make reattaching it easier. You can use the solo outer tent on its own as your primary shelter if you're trying to save weight. Combining it with the optional footprint will offer more comfort, but it is still not as comfortable since the outer tent by itself is not breathable and can therefore sometimes have condensation. Using the solo inner tent separately. Pitched on its own, the solo inner tent provides excellent lightweight, warm weather bug protection. To use the inner tent separately, you will need the Solo BL pole holder kit, which is available for purchase separately. You'll also need the Solo's 3 poles and 6 of its pegs. The pole holder kit consists of 2 loose pole holders, as well as 1 set of 3 line runner adjustable pole holders connected to a 4th pole holder that also has a cord with a ring attached to it. After detaching the inner tent, lay it out and attach one of the adjustable corded pole holders to each corner on the front of the tent and one loose pole holder to each corner of the back of the tent. Place the remaining adjustable corded pole holder under the floor of the tent, making sure that the fourth pole holder and the line with the ring on its end is in front of the tent's door. From the back of the tent, reach under and pull the adjustable corded pole holder through and connect it to the toggle in the middle of the back wall. Thread one of the two longer poles through one line of loops and toggles that crosses the tent lengthwise from head to foot end. Note that all the loops are elastic except for the two in the middle of the line. Seat the pole end into the pole holder at the end of the line of loops. Repeat this process with the remaining longer pole in the other line of loops and toggles running from head to foot end. Put this second pole over the first pole, then seat it into the pole holder. From the back of the tent, thread the shorter pole marked with red tape through the elastic loops that cross the tent widthwise. Put this pole under both crossing poles, then through the remaining elastic loops on the door's zipper line and seat the pole end into the pole holder you position in front of the tent's door. Holding on to the pole holder at the back of the tent, arch the pole and place the end into it. Next, arch the second crossing pole you put in and seat its free end into the corner's pole holder. Finally, arch the first crossing pole you put in and seat its free end into the corner's pole holder. Pull up the cord with the ring on its end that is attached to the pole holder in front of the tent's door and wrap it upward around the pole. Insert the toggle on the elastic loop above the door into the ring on the end of the cord. Adjust the line runners on the cords connecting the pole holders so that all the pole holders rest evenly on the ground. Peg all 6 pole holders. Remember to press the pegs in completely at about a 45-degree angle to the ground. Using the optional Solo Mesh Inner Tent. While it can be used on its own, the Solo Mesh Inner Tent can also be used in place of the regular Solo Inner Tent. Simply remove the standard inner tent, align the mesh inner tent, and attach it to the outer tent. While swapping the standard inner tent for the Solo Mesh Inner Tent will add more ventilation, it will also turn your Solo from an all-season tent to a 3-season tent, since none of the mesh panels can be covered and snow can potentially get in. Mesh inner tents weigh about the same as the corresponding model's standard inner tent. Setting up the mesh inner tent is exactly the same as setting up the standard inner tent. The mesh inner tent comes with a pole holder kit. You will also need the poles and pegs. Review the section on using the Solo Inner Tent separately for full pitching instructions. Using a tarp with the Solo Standard or Mesh Inner Tent. Combining the standard or mesh inner tent with the Hilleberg Tarp 10 makes an excellent warm weather shelter solution. The inner tent provides fully ventilated bug protection, and you can set up the tarp if you need protection from rain or sun. To pitch the tarp over your Solo Inner Tent or Mesh Inner Tent, set your trekking poles so they are a little bit longer than the height of the inner tent. Make sure that the tarp's integrated pocket is facing down, then drape the tarp so that its longer dimension is parallel to the head and foot ends of the inner tent. Pull out and peg the guy lines on the long sides of the tarp, leaving them fairly slack. Put one of the trekking pole's tips into the ring in the middle of the edge of the tarp at the back of the tent. Place the guy line loop behind the tip of the trekking pole for easier adjustment of the guy line. Then peg down and tighten the guy line. repeat with another trekking pole in front of the tent's door. Tighten the guy lines and adjust the peg points as needed to get the setup and coverage you want. Using the Solo footprint. Please note that the Solo footprint covers both the inner tent floor and the vestibule. The best time to attach the footprint to your tent is indoors, before you go on your trip. Lay your tent out with the floor side up. Position the footprint on top of the tent floor with the logo side towards the floor. Note that the tent's ground strap will be under the footprint, which is fine. The logo on the Solo's footprint should align to the center of the Solo's outer tent door. Attach the footprint's red toggles to the rings around the perimeter of the Solo's outer tent. You can leave the footprint attached when you pack the tent. The Solo's tent bag is made to accommodate the tent and its footprint. Taking down the Solo. When taking down the tent, repeat every step you used to pitch the tent, but in reverse. When doing this, and especially in windy conditions, it's a good idea to leave one guy line pegged down until the tent is packed away. We recommend that you set all the guy lines to their longest lengths and close the doors before taking down and packing the tent. That way, it will be fully ready for the next time you pitch it. Detach the vent cover at the two hooks while leaving it attached to the tent with the two toggles. Detach the clips from the poles. Again, make sure not to step on the tent. Remove the poles from the short pole sleeves. Fold the poles, checking them to see if they have been damaged. If so, replace the damaged section with the repair pole section. Make sure you have all the pegs and put them into the peg bag and put the peg bag into the pole bag. This helps keep the pegs easily accessible the next time you pitch the tent. There are two options for packing your Solo into its bag: folding and rolling it, or stuffing it. If you decide to fold and roll your tent, we recommend that you fold the tent so that the floor is left facing outward. Roll the pole bag into the tent before you put the entire bundle into the tent bag. Stuffing the tent is the preferred method in stormy conditions. Gather and stuff the tent into the bag, then stow the poles and pegs in your pack separate from the tent bag. Never stuff the poles down the side of the tent in the tent bag. If you carry your tent on the outside of your pack, such as under the pack's lid, it's a good idea to tie the bag's cord to your pack in case the tent slips out. Don't ever store a wet tent. As soon as possible, hang your tent to dry. If you have the space, the ideal way is to put the poles in and hang the complete tent. If you've attached the optional footprint, make sure and detach one corner so both the tent floor and the footprint dry properly. If there's no space for that, just make sure that it hangs long enough and that you rotate it so that it's completely dry between all the layers. Clean off and dry the pegs and inspect them for any damage. Have a wonderful outing and enjoy the wilderness, but leave as small of an imprint as possible. Leave everything the way you would like to find it on your next trip. Visit Hilleberg.com to see our entire product range and to find more videos with practical tips on using your tent. You can also read more about us, including our history, our philosophy, and how we make our tents.